The fans are shocked by what they're hearing, and the internet is ablaze. The entire love and hip-hop world is in disbelief over a startling assertion at the heart of the rumors that are spreading like wildfire. Known for her fiery nature and unrestrained attitude, Mena recently revealed something shocking that nobody had anticipated. She is pregnant and is purportedly saying that Mendeecees Harris may be the father. Yes, you heard correctly. Erica's audacious declaration has shocked the fan community, even if Mendeecees is still very much with Yandy Smith. How did this occur? What time did it occur? And above all, is there any truth in it? According to people familiar with the matter, things began to go south following a recent hip-hop and love shoot, in which Erica and Mendeecees were seen having multiple off-camera chats. According to reports, Yandy was unaware of anything happening till recently. Fans are demanding answers. Allegations are flying, and emotions are running high. Is there more to the story than everyone anticipated? Or is this just another attention-grabbing gimmick? You won't be able to speak after what occurs next, so stick with us. There was a lot of gossip around the city the morning after Erica's tweet. Podcasts, fan groups, and news organizations were all focused on the escalating controversy. According to one blogger, she was seen carrying what appeared to be DNA documents in her purse as she left a clinic. Another claimed to have heard her say over the phone, "I want him to say it, but I already know what the results are." Regardless of the veracity of these assertions, they only served to exacerbate the pandemonium. As they waited for any sort of confirmation, supporters were glued to their TVs. The leak that would rock everything to its foundation then appeared. A computerized version of what looked like a prenatal DNA test started making the rounds on the internet. The putative mother's and father's names were blocked away, but the document appeared authentic. But the outcome was unmistakable, a 99.8% chance. The internet went crazy. The test was allegedly photoshopped, according to some. It was the smoking gun, according to some. The drama reached a peak never seen before. Although Erica said nothing, her fans bombarded her with comments pleading for clarification. Is it accurate? Why don't you say something? This makes all the difference. However, she didn't reply to any of the messages. Mendeecees and his manager were seen departing an Atlanta eatery in the meanwhile. When questioned about the DNA findings by paparazzi, he only shook his head and murmured, "No comment." However, his expression conveyed a different message. He was worn out, anxious, and obviously under strain. Fans started analyzing every little detail. His clenching of his jaw, his avoidance of eye contact, and his body language all suggested guilt. He was no longer benefiting from the silence. However, behind the scenes, Yandy was collapsing. She had been crying for days, hardly eating, and refusing to leave her house, according to people close to her. Her friends attempted to encourage her, but she was avoiding conversation. According to one report, she said to a friend, "I'm not sure which is worse, the humiliation or the betrayal." Yandy has always come across to fans as the calm, strong one. It was awful to watch her broken like this. Even the love and support that her admirers showered her page with was unable to keep her safe from the storm. Then, in the most surprising turn of events, Erica consented to participate in an exclusive interview with a well-known podcast. Before the entire show was released, the teaser video went viral. In it, Erica wore a hoodie and very little makeup while sitting in a dimly lit area. "I didn't want it to come to this, but I won't be silenced anymore," she added, her voice shaking. Fans were eagerly awaiting every word of the episode when it finally aired. Erica disclosed that during a difficult time in Mendeecees' marriage, she and he had become close. According to her, things began innocently enough, just talking, letting off steam, and connecting over stress, but gradually got out of hand. She wiped away a tear and continued, "I'm not proud of it. It happened even though I knew it was wrong, and I never thought I would become pregnant. But after I did, I was forced to choose between telling everyone a falsehood and facing the reality. I decided to tell the truth." The room became quiet. Even the host seems taken aback. Erica went on to say that she had contacted the Mendeecees in private in the hopes of handling the situation discreetly. However, she felt compelled to speak up when he began to ignore her messages and act as like nothing had happened. She remarked, "I kept thinking he'd do the right thing." Rather, he attempted to convince me that I was insane, as if I had dreamt everything, and I realized at that moment that I had to put my child's safety first, even if it meant destroying relationships. The confession caused a stir on the internet. Fans were taken aback. Her bravery was praised by many. Some questioned the motivations and timing, but disbelief was the overriding emotion. This was no longer merely tabloid rumors. This was an honest, unvarnished confession, and it was impossible to ignore. The consequences were immediate. On his tail, Mendeecees shared a lengthy text message. He wrote, "People will say anything when they feel hurt, without explicitly confirming or denying anything. Despite my mistakes, I have never neglected my obligations. I wasn't guilty for keeping quiet. It was for my family's protection." The post only made people wonder more. What errors was he talking about? Was there something he was confessing? In an attempt to unravel the truth, enthusiasts analyzed each line. However, nothing was evident. Yandy went live the same evening. Her speech was solid, but her face was pale and her energy was low. She started, "I know you all want answers. However, to be honest, I don't possess them. Like the rest of you, I was caught off guard." She stopped and inhaled deeply. "I adore my spouse. I had faith in our household, and I'm currently just attempting to determine what is true." Fans showered the conversation with encouraging words. "If this child is his, we'll deal with it," said Yandy. "However, I refuse to be destroyed by lies. I require the facts, not rumors, blogs, or stories. Facts." A few hours later, another video appeared. This one showing Erica and Mendeecees in a backstage scene from an earlier shot. They were far too at ease, were standing close, and were laughing. Fans who had ruled out a connection between them suddenly changed their minds. "Observe the body language," remarked a TikTok user. "That kind of tension cannot be faked." Only a few months before to Erica's pregnancy announcement, the tape was dated. Everything altered as a result. A woman who claimed to be Mendeecees' ex from years ago joined the chat room just as everyone thought it could get any messier. "History repeats itself when lessons aren't learnt," she wrote in a mysterious video that she shared on TikTok. Everyone concluded she was talking about Mendeecees even though she didn't identify anyone. There were a ton of theories in the comment area. Some admirers even conjectured that Erica wasn't the first to deal with him in this manner. The story started to change. Were the Mendeecees concealing more than one secret? Erica shared another message after witnessing the mayhem, this time a picture of a cot being constructed, along with the words, "Getting ready, regardless of who steps up." Mendeecees were the target of the direct shot. She wasn't going to wait for him to take responsibility. That much was obvious. While some followers questioned her tactics, others praised her strength. But she wasn't going to back down that much, was clear. And VH1 producers sensed a chance as the situation deepened. Rumors started to circulate that all three were going to be taped in an emergency. They planned to record a sit-down between Erica, Mendeecees, and Yandy, according to insiders. According to insiders, Erica agreed right away. Mendeecees was not sure about it. And Yandy, she initially objected, but after considerable discussion, she allegedly consented on the proviso that she would speak last. Fans were incredulous. It was nearly unbearable to think of the three of them in the same room, facing the truth on camera. The internet was preparing for the impact as the countdown to the confrontation had begun, and feelings were running high. As the taping drew near, an ultrasound image with a voice note playing over it was the subject of another story that Erica shared. It was the heartbeat of a newborn. She stated, "Every beat reminds me why I'm speaking up." The message struck a deep chord. Fans were now emotionally invested. They all desired the truth, regardless of whether they backed Erica, Yandy, or no one at all. And whether or not anyone was prepared for it, it seemed as though the truth was finally approaching. When the day of the sit-down recording finally came, the tension was so high that a knife could have cut through it. There wasn't much light on the stage, but it was enough to see everyone's faces. Producers were tense, cameras were rolling, and the backstage environment was a pressure cooker on the verge of blowing up. Erica was the first to arrive, wearing a basic black attire with just enough of her tummy visible to remind everyone of the main purpose of the event. Although she appeared composed, anyone closely observing her could see that her hands were shaking a little as she gripped her phone. 10 minutes later, Mendeecees arrived, appearing more anxious than anyone had ever seen him. He continued to pace, rub his forehead, and check his watch. He refused to relax despite the producer's best efforts. He murmured to himself, "I didn't sign up for this circus," but he didn't take any action to leave. He was aware that leaving would only exacerbate the situation. The final person to show up was Yandy. She said nothing to anyone. She entered, dressed all white as if she were going to a funeral, her chin up, her eyes cold, and perhaps in a sense she was lamenting the connection she believed she had. One by one, the three were led into the room. Mendeecees sat in the middle, Yandy on the right, and Erica on the left. 3 chairs, the terrible weight of unsolved tension, and no moderator were present. The room was silent until Erica finally broke the ice. "So, are we doing this?" Although she spoke firmly, her eyes showed how vulnerable she was. He cleared his throat. "Mendeecees, I'm not even sure where to begin." Yandy sneered. "Maybe start with the truth?" Erica bent forward. "I've already presented my case. I have no intention of arguing. My child deserves to know who their father is, which is why I'm here, and the world ought to know your true nature as a man." Mendeecees softly shook his head while maintaining a calm voice. "I never claimed that the child wasn't mine. The situation is messy," I said, "and it is. Before we even had a chance to handle this quietly, you went public." "No, you ignored me. I tried to reach out," Erica said forcefully. "I made an effort to keep it private. You abandoned me like if I were a groupie. Thus, I took the necessary action." Randy crossed her arms. "And posting this on social media, was that your only option?" With a softer tone, Erica turned to face her. "I didn't intend to cause you harm. Actually, I didn't. I am aware of how this appears. However, imagine yourself in my position. I am expecting a child. I'm afraid, and the man who could be the father is behaving as though I'm not there." Before they could fall, Yandy blinked away the tears that welled up in her eyes. "I've had worse circumstances. And believe me when I say that there is no manual for treachery. But everything, this circus. You also made a decision." Mendeecees' voice was tense when he finally spoke. "I committed errors. I'm not pleased with them. However, I didn't request all of this noise. Before it became a reality program, I wanted time to work things out." Erica gave a sour laugh. "Mendeecees, you're a reality star. Your entire life is a performance." That line hurt, and the room fell silent once more for a while. But then, almost to herself, Yandy muttered, "Did it ever happen?" Mendeecees' eyes softened as they gazed at her. "What we had was authentic. This." The producers observing from the monitor realized they had hit gold. "I don't even know what this is." Every moment of the confrontation, the grief and the raw emotion was captured on camera in real time. The leaked teaser clips had fans going crazy. The internet was rife with arguments, and everyone had chosen a side. Team Erica versus Team Yandy, as well as Mendeecees. Both sides were dragging him along. No one was letting him get away with it. Erica took a little folder out of her backpack as the sit-down went on. She handed them over and declared, "These are the official DNA results." After hesitating, Mendeecees picked up the newspaper and started reading. The quiet seemed to last for several minutes. Then he looked up and closed the folder. "It's mine," he declared plainly. Yandy let out a quick exhale and closed her eyes. Erica did not recoil. She was aware of the reality. It was as though the room had split in two. "So what?" Erica inquired. "Are you still going to vanish?" Mendeecees gave him a temple rub. "I won't be leaving. I'll accept accountability. However, this makes all the difference." Yandy got to his feet, pacing a little. "You're absolutely correct. To be honest, you only had one task, and you were unable to accomplish that. I've kept you down through everything, drama, jail, etc., as well as this. Is this how you pay me back? At last, a tear trickled down her face as her voice broke. While you were skulking around, I was fighting for us. Erica averted her gaze to give Yandy her space. I'm not pleading with you for forgiveness, she added quietly. However, don't hold me responsible for his decisions. Mendeecees stood as well, attempting to speak but failing. Yandy shook her head and turned to face him. I've finished speaking. I'm done battling. You two clean up the mess you created. I require time. After saying that, she left the set, leaving an unsettling silence in her wake. Although the producers requested a pause, the harm had already been done. There were paparazzi all around Yandy's automobile outside the studio. Although she lowered her head, one reporter was able to inquire, "Are you leaving him?" She didn't respond. She was not required to. Her quiet spoke louder than anything she said. In the meantime, Erica sat by herself in her chair inside, gazing at the vacant area where Yandy had been. At last, Mendeecees said, "I didn't want this." Erica gave him a weary expression. However, it's what you created. 2 days later, the episode aired, and the reaction was tremendous. The comments section was a battleground as millions of people watched. Fans were shocked, incensed, and heartbroken. While some criticized Erica for going public, others applauded her for her courage. Fans showered her with love and support, sharing snippets of her speech and tagging her with comments like, "Stay strong, Queen," and "You deserve better." Mendeecees, however, encountered a flurry of criticism. Social media was overrun with memes. One included Mendeecees with the phrase, "Mendeecees cannot be spelt without mess." Another featured Yandy wearing a crown that read, "Unbothered Royalty." Online reactions weren't the only ones. Brand partnerships were halted, endorsements were withdrawn, and insiders hinted that VH1 would re-edit future episodes to account for the impact. The scandal had become uncontrollable. In the days that followed, Erica shared her story without naming anyone, posting multiple updates of herself setting up the baby's nursery. Meanwhile, Yandy fell silent. Just silence. No stories, no posts. Whether she had moved out, filed for divorce, or was simply attempting to recover, admirers conjectured. Mendeecees shared a mysterious video of himself at a church with the words, "Looking for peace." However, no number of captions could undo the harm. The couple's pals started making anonymous statements. Yandy was blindsided, according to one insider. She was aware that things weren't flawless, but this, she didn't anticipate it. She didn't go into this to destroy anybody, stated another insider close to Erica. She simply did not want to be disregarded. She wanted recognition for her child. The world watched in anticipation of what would happen next, emotions running high and no obvious solution in sight. And just when everyone thought things were beginning to calm down, another shocking revelation was made. Someone posing as Erica's cousin went live on Instagram, displaying images of purportedly old chats between Erica and Mendeecees. Among them, he describes her as beautiful, says he can't stop thinking about that night, and even goes so far as to remark, "I wish things were different." It made little difference if the screenshots were authentic or not. The damage was already done. The fans were already decided. One thing became painfully obvious as the aftermath of the interview, the DNA test, and the emotional encounter subsided. Nothing would ever be the same. The world had already chosen sides, drawn battle lines, and transformed a private scandal into public entertainment before the baby was even born. However, actual lives were collapsing behind the memes and rumors, and by no means was the narrative finished. After the taping, Mendeecees sat by himself in his car for almost an hour, his phone vibrating constantly with alerts. Producer calls, messages from unidentified numbers, and mentions on social media are coming in at an exponential rate. He was aware that there was nothing he could do to stop his world from collapsing piece by piece. He read the remarks, each one more impactful than the one before it. Everything was ruined by you. How could you harm Yandy like that? An additional child? SH. He threw his phone onto the passenger seat, closed the app, and just gazed at the driving wheel in shock. In the meantime, Yandy had withdrew to the home of a close friend, evading calls from all relatives. She required room. She required silence. She had to take a breath. The pain was shame rather than betrayal. She had been there for him through it all. Jail, rumors, public examination. And this was the last blow. She went into hiding for the following 2 days, not checking her messages or responding to producers. The only thing keeping her from going fully insane was the presence of her children. She played with them, smiled for them, and gave them a sense of security, but she broke down in private. Repeatedly. Erica, however, was entering a new kind of mayhem. Many supporters were dragging her through the mud, while others praised her for speaking the truth. She received messages like attention seeker, homewrecker, and worse. Her address was posted online, strangers showed up at work, and individuals called her relatives. It was more than she had ever anticipated, and despite her best efforts to hide it, the effects were becoming apparent. The child was already the focus of a media frenzy before she had even given birth. Seeing how big the story had grown, the VH1 producers started to push for a full show that focused on the consequences. Everything was being gathered, including leaked audio, confessionals, and behind-the-scenes video. To ride the drama, they even thought of conducting a live reunion. Special. However, there was a significant issue. Yandy wasn't answering. He wasn't answering. Resolution to the story without Yandy. She was the focal point of the story, and no interview could capture the impact of her silence. There was a lot of pressure to bring her back on camera. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to say," Mona Scott herself remarked in a voicemail, "but you must speak to the supporters, if only for 5 minutes. Even though it's only to end the chapter." After hearing the message, Yandy erased it without responding. She wasn't prepared. Not quite yet. Not when millions would analyze every action she took. Not when she was still questioning whether or not she had ever been in a relationship. Mendeecees attempted contacting both women back in the city. He apologized, begged for another opportunity, and described how terrified and overwhelmed he had been in lengthy texts to Yandy. He pledged to be there for Erica and accept responsibility for the child, but he would never again cross the line. He assured Yandy that she was everything to him, and that their relationship could never be broken. However, the messages remained unread. He attempted to contact, directly to voicemail. On one occasion, he even appeared outside her friend's house, but the door never opened. Even if it was killing him on the inside, he had to accept that she needed time. He also made an effort to patch things up with Erica, but those discussions also didn't work out. She was upset that he hadn't publicly defended her more, that he was now attempting to play the victim, and that she had to bear the burden of public humiliation while he was able to escape with evasive excuses. In a furious phone conversation, she informed him, "You created this mess. You wanted to live like a king, balancing 2 lives, and now you're acting shocked as everything blows up. No, you can't play confused right now." Erica blocked his phone as the call came to an end. The cameras, the show, and the headlines didn't matter to her. She was only concerned with keeping her peace and her child safe. She was aware that everything will change once the baby was born. She refused to allow the man who abandoned her when she was pregnant to enter and act heroic, only if he merited it. As the days went by, fresh rumors began to circulate. Mendeecees were allegedly seen at an Atlanta lounge with an unidentified woman. Others claimed that in addition to moving into a new flat, Yandy was already scheduling meetings with a divorce attorney. Blogs claimed that Erica had a secret boyfriend all along, and that the baby might not be Mendeecees after all, dragging her name into new rumors. Although none of it was verified, it made no difference. Perception was crucial in reality television, and this plot was devolving into something beyond anyone's control. In order to piece together the plot without putting the 3 of them in the same room, a few producers suggested that they record scenes with each of them individually. Mendeecees concurred. Erica reluctantly accepted. Andy didn't answer. However, she shared a single dark screen on her Instagram story with the caption, "Sometimes silence is strength, right after everyone assumed she was done for good. But I'll talk to you soon. The internet exploded. Within minutes, it was shared. On blogs, support and interest from fans filled the comments section. It was also uploaded by the official VH1 page with the comment, "Queen, we're listening." She arrived at the studio a week later, just her and her team entering without any cameras or announcements. She asked for an unguarded private confessional, not a producer. No viewers. The camera and her alone. They instantly agreed. She took a seat, inhaled deeply, and began talking. She spoke quietly but firmly. She didn't mince words. She discussed the sorrow, the betrayal, and the restless nights. She mentioned that she was worn out from fighting for a man who was incapable of standing up for her, weary of taking the lead, weary of acting as though nothing was wrong. With tears in her eyes, she continued, "I gave him everything. With him, I created a life. When everyone warned me not to, I stood by him. And right now, I'm left to gather up the fragments of something that I didn't shatter." After pausing to catch her breath, she said, "But I'm not bitter. I'm no longer upset. I'm just finished." She concluded the confessional by stating that she would always act in her children's best interests, which at the moment meant keeping her peace, no matter what that entailed. It was uncooked, it was authentic, and it disrupted the internet when it aired. Millions of people watched. Millions of people sobbed, millions cheered. Once more, the narrative had changed from scandal to strength. And the majority of people felt that she deserved more, even though others still wanted Mendeecees and Yandy to get back together. Erica, on the other hand, said nothing during that week. No statements, no new posts. She was determined not to. Let the commotion distract her from her goal of surviving the last few weeks of her pregnancy. Mendeecees sat by himself in his flat and watched Yandy's confession. He remained silent, just gazed at the television, tears welling up in his eyes as the consequences of his actions suddenly hit him. Something he had damaged might never be repaired. Years of establishing confidence had been ruined by him, and he now had to accept that reality. He might finally be forgiven by the public. It might be redeemed by the network. However, he realized in his heart that he had lost the one thing he believed he could always rely on, and the three of them ended up on different ways while the city was a flurry of reaction videos, think pieces, and trending hashtags. Pain kept them apart, but scandal bound them together. In addition to turmoil, the infant might also be delivered with clarity, because the narrative wasn't finished yet, and what had begun as a secret had evolved into a reckoning. Not quite yet. Weeks passed, and while the media craze had begun to subside, the real-world repercussions were only becoming worse. In order to avoid the paparazzi, Yandy had formally left the shared house and relocated into a smaller, more private flat in a gated community. She limited who could visit and who knew where she was by maintaining a close-knit community. She was choosing herself without doubt for the first time in years. She turned down the majority of the brand partnerships, interview requests, and program offers that kept coming in. She was more concerned with healing than making news. Mendeecees, meantime, discovered that he was spiraling out of control. He was left alone with his thoughts and the guilt after Erica fell silent and Yandy went. He made an effort to immerse himself in his work, attending meetings and acting as though he was still in charge. But his thoughts were always wandering. Every night at home, every event, and every studio session felt hollow. He missed the warmth of family meals, his children, and the way Yandy would simply glance at him to see how he was doing. Even although he was aware that he was to blame, he still couldn't comprehend how everything came to an abrupt end. Even though her body was exhausted as she approached the end of her pregnancy, Erica's mind was more alert than ever. She tried to comprehend everything by keeping a journal for several hours. A couple of her friends still came over to give her a small private celebration, even though her baby shower had been canceled because of all the chaos. No cameras, not a drama. Simply love. That day she grinned more than she had in months. However, there was a persistent burden even during those times of calm. She was bringing her child into what kind of world? In reality, what sort of parent would Mendeecees be? Erica experienced a mixture of happiness and fear when the baby eventually arrived. A healthy baby girl with a full head of hair. She hugged her kid and sobbed quietly, not because she was in agony, but because of all she had been holding inside. "She's here," she said in a brief message to the Mendeecees. "Secure, wholesome." He immediately responded, offering to visit the hospital and requesting to see the infant. Erica, however, told him no. "Not at this time," she wrote. "She is worthy of peace. I'm worthy of peace. The rest will work out later." He didn't press. He actually listened. A day later, the birth's announcement was leaked by a local blogger who was tipped off by a nurse who recognized Erica. Once more, the headlines went crazy. In the midst of family turmoil, the new daughter of the Mendeecees arrives. Yandy remains silent on social media after Erica gives birth. It couldn't have come at a worse time. In an attempt to go cautiously, Yandy had just begun to open up once more. And this now. According to close insiders, she broke down when she saw the baby's photo online, but she didn't publicly react to the news. It was because it made everything so final, not because I was jealous. In an attempt to chronicle the baby's delivery and the next phase in the story, VH1 executives reached out again. Erica flatly refused. Even Yandy didn't respond. He talked about becoming a father again, how he wanted to do things correctly this time, and how he was learning from his errors during a solo shoot, but only Mendeecees agreed. Despite its emotional content, the section was riddled with paradoxes. He mentioned growth, but the online commenters quickly pointed out that he hadn't done much to support his claims. Once more, it was all just words. The network started to change course. They recognized a chance to change the focus of the story to co-parenting and redemption, portraying Mendeecees as a guy attempting to reunite his family. They proposed a B miniseries and even suggested a spin-off with a therapeutic focus. However, Yandy was not interested in it. The cameras had already taken too much from her. She wished to avoid making mending a show. She desired true tranquility. She wished for her children to grow up apart from the commotion. She was unable to completely leave the show, though. Both in person and online, her admirers followed her everywhere. Every time she left the house, phones rang. The comments exploded whenever she posted. Some pleaded with her to pardon him. She was commended by others for leaving. However, everything kept pulling her back into a story she was attempting to wrap up. Even her children began to inquire, "Why don't we move in with Daddy? Why are people discussing us?" She tried her best to keep them safe, but it was obvious that the harm had extended to everyone and wasn't limited to her and the Mendeecees. After the kid was delivered, Mendeecees made another attempt to get in touch. He sent flowers, presents, audio recordings. He even penned a letter that was delivered by hand to Yandy's new residence. He confessed everything in it. The cowardice, the fear, and the lies. If she never wanted to see him again, he continued, he understood. But he only asked for one thing. "Let me demonstrate my ability to improve. Not for us, for our children." In her room, Yandy read the letter by herself. She started crying again. Not out of anguish, though, this time. Out of fatigue. She had had enough of having to make decisions all the time. Weeks went by. The buzz in the media subsided. The news was dominated by a new controversy. Fans moved on. However, the three of them were still coping with the aftermath behind closed doors. Erica chose to raise her kid in peace and out of the spotlight, concentrating on her. She thought about leaving the state and starting over somewhere where no one knew who she was. With a goal that seemed more personal than ever, Yandy went back to her charitable work, helping young females discover their voice. As well as Mendeecees, he began attending treatment, actual therapy. No cameras, not a crew. Only him, a chair, and the consequences of his decisions. Over time, minor changes occurred. Mendeecees were permitted to see the children by Yandy, but only under close supervision. After allowing him to see the infant once, Erica made it apparent that she was now in charge. They had no friendship. They were not adversaries. The baby girl didn't ask for any of this, and the three of them were bonded by shattered trust. And the cacophony gradually began to subside without anyone noticing. Then, without warning, VH1 revealed a surprise reunion show. Just one night, uncooked, not scripted, without filters. A few frames from the most recent confessional tapes were used in the commercial, along with clips of old recollections, laughter, and tears. The supporters were excited. Everyone pondered whether all three would appear. Would Yandy eventually go up against Mendeecees in person? Would Erica ever again speak her mind on camera? The reunion night arrived. The studio was full. There was strict security. Every angle was covered with cameras. Mendeecees entered first, dressed simply in a black sweatshirt and appearing calm despite their nervousness. Then, with a small group of friends around her, Erica held her daughter. Finally, just when everyone believed she wouldn't make it, Yandy took the stage. There was silence in the room. She took a seat carefully, glanced around, and spoke the words, "I'm here. Not for show, not for ratings, to bring everything to a close." The story was no longer about betrayal at that point. It has nothing to do with scandal. It concerned three individuals who were at last confronted with reality, unadulterated, uncovered, and unrefined, because often the quietest endings have the largest impact. Furthermore, forgiving does not always equate to closure. You appear to be stronger than before, as if you were going away. The quiet that ensued as the reunion came to an end and the lights went down spoke louder than any screenplay ever could. It had been a long, ugly, and unforgettable trip from denial to confrontation, from heartache to harsh realities. Fans who had followed every development experienced conflicting feelings. Some desired more, while others felt closure. However, one thing was clear. This was no ordinary hip-hop and love drama. This involved actual suffering, decisions, and repercussions. Although Mendeecees, Yandy, and Erica followed different routes, their choices would have long-lasting effects. Social media was ablaze with responses, arguments, and encouragement from supporters who had already chosen a side. It was dubbed redemption by some. Some considered it the last nail in the coffin. However, everyone knew in their hearts that they had just seen something unvarnished, something that struck a distinct chord, and we'd want to hear from you now. What are your thoughts on all that transpired? Did the Mendeecees tell the truth? Was it the right decision for Yandy to leave? And what about Erica? Was it bold or well thought out for her to go public? This story is far from over, so please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And for more incredible updates, unheard tales, and behind-the-scenes drama that the networks won't show you, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you've been following along through all the mayhem. There's always more to love, lying, and DNA testing than meets the eye, so turn on that alert so you don't miss another twist. Until the next time, keep an eye out, maintain your curiosity, and keep in mind that sometimes the true narrative starts when the cameras stop.